Hello everybody, here is Granny Alice with yet another story. So wanted to say hello to my little baby Aerith and hello to everybody anybody who would like to listen to my next story. The story is called Little Alice and Her Dog. Another year passed, another summer, after providing Alice with many wonderful adventures, was almost over. She was spending her summer holidays, with her uncle, her quietly soft-spoken auntie, and a bunch of her favorite cousins on her favorite farm. The presence of many farm animals, including a fluffy old dog, was soothing to Alice's still vivid memory of her cat. Alice's parents were expected to arrive any day now, and however engrossed in games with her cousins, Alice was vigilant and expectant. She therefore was the first one to spot the car in the distance and to scream, "Here they are! Let's run to greet them! See who gets there first!" and ran like the wind towards them. The car stopped, the door on her mum's side opened, and before anyone could say anything, to Alice's and her cousin's absolute and utter amazement, there rolled out of the car a floppy, soft, furry, black with flashes of brown here and there, still disoriented and sleepy from the journey, puppy. Incredulous, she looked down. What? Can this be real? Is this what I think it is? Is he mine? Stammered Alice. Yes, he's all yours, Mum and Dad answered in unison, both grinning from ear to ear. Will somebody please pinch me? Can this really be true? Alice at first, transfixed, by now, was almost dizzy and faint with excitement. Clapping her hands softly, trying hard not to jump up and down, thinking that it might scare the puppy. But Puppy was not scared. On the contrary, he bravely looked up at her, and Alice squealed with delight. Look at his adorable drooping ears. Oh, look, he's lifting himself up on his chubby paws. At that moment, Alice knew for sure that dreams do come true. She stooped down to pick her newfound treasure up. The pup stretched his podgy little neck out towards her, and by now fully awake, enthusiastically licked her face, touching it with his cold, moist black nose. Alice, hugging the puppy, looked at her mum and dad with tears in her eyes. She was full to the brim with feelings of being happy and thankful. In the house, everybody gathered around Alice and her puppy, chattering and laughing. They all celebrated the event. Of course, living in a village, they have seen many puppies, but never a girl so elated with having one. So they all wanted to share in Alice's happiness. It was contagious. That night, she was allowed to sleep with her puppy, and hugging his warm body heaving peacefully next to her, she fell asleep feeling the magical, invisible cloud of a wish fulfilled all around her. Mum and Dad could only stay for a couple of days. Soon Alice was packed, therefore, and ready to go. The trip back home was all about the puppy. They had to stop every couple of hours with the puppy in mind. He needed to be given water to drink. They had to make sure he had a comfy blanket to lie on. Alice kept fussing. And the dog? He kept sliding or rolling down onto the floor in a delightfully roly-poly way and crawling under the seat, which he had to be stopped from doing. You can't do that, you know. It is dangerous, Be good and lie down next to me." Alice kept repeating to her fluffy companion, but the dog couldn't help it, and at the first curve on the road, he was on the floor again. "Oh, there you go again. Come back to the seat. There's a good boy," followed by a kiss. Not for one moment did Alice tire of pulling him up again and again, until eventually he fell asleep in her lap. There was never so much fun to be had as having fun with the puppy. During their many short stops, there was so much laughter, running around with the puppy, who clumsily, tripping himself up on his adorably wobbly legs, tried to follow Alice. It was probably one of the best trips ever taken, so unexpected. Alice, who never gave up her dream of having a dog one day, never in a million years, as she kept saying, expected for it to happen that memorable summer. Back at home, they were slowly settling down to a routine with the puppy. Dad, who liked discipline and order, explained the rules. "I will take the puppy out first thing in the morning, before going off to work. The rest is up to you, Alice. And mind we don't want any mess in the house," added Mum, who was of course concerned about house cleanliness and hygiene. Fortunately, it was still holiday times for another couple of weeks, so Alice was able to spend as much time with her puppy as she wanted to, and this resulted in her spending all her time with her puppy. Alice's friend Estella was the first person to be introduced to the puppy. Her reaction was, "I do not believe what I'm seeing. Your own puppy." All this she said slowly and stressing every single word. She was fascinated. They were both fascinated and pleased and amused by the puppy, who on the other hand was so hilarious in his clumsiness and visible enthusiasm for being with the girls. "Can I come tomorrow?" Estella said to Alice on her way out. Of course she could, and of course she did. It was hard for her to miss a day. Because of the puppy, Estella became almost a member of Alice's household, and their shared enthusiasm for the dog made their already almost sisterly friendship even stronger. The girls were both constantly and equally charmed and enchanted by the puppy, doing what he did best, just being an affectionate, adorably playful and happy puppy. He was magnetic. Now the big question was, how are they going to call him? Alice believed, as it was her dream come true, from all that wishing upon a star, that his name had to be somehow connected to the sky. "What is the name of the biggest planet in the universe?" Alice asked her dad, who she believed knew the answer to all her questions. "Is that what you want to call him, Alice?" "It is Jupiter," Dad answered. Alice pondered, tried it out on the puppy, who in her eyes reacted positively to being called Jupiter. "Oh look, he's wagging his tail. He likes it," as he wagged his little puppy tail in response. After a little conference with Estella, it was decided that Jupiter was a good name for the puppy, and with comical seriousness, it was formally announced to him. "From now on," said Alice, "and forever, we will call you Jupiter." As Alice was standing still, bending down over the puppy became still too, and tilting his head to the side, he looked over so attentively at Alice, as if saying, "Thank you, I like it." "You're very welcome," said Alice. Jupiter. Yes, it suited him. He was, after all, like the biggest planet, so far, the biggest event in little Alice's life. Dad also explained to Alice in many words some facts connected to Jupiter's powers of magnetism. However little she understood from her lecture about Jupiter, Alice once played with magnets, observed and understood their property. She could therefore not agree more that her Jupiter was also very magnetic, as she found herself almost unable to separate from him when the school time became an impending reality. Now, you be a good boy while I'm gone, obey Granny, and I will be back before you can say Jiminy Cricket, okay? Giving him a big hug. She was suddenly not as eager as she had usually been before to skip happily to school. Mum and Dad, and Granny too on the other hand, were glad that she was also less eager to linger away from home after school. How could she linger, knowing who waited for her at home? According to Alice, no one ever knew of more difficult partings than when she had to tear herself away from Jupiter in the morning, and no more jolliness ever experienced when they were restored to one another after school. Alice knew happiness, but Jupiter's explosions of appreciation of her coming home were unbelievable. She would sit on the floor to watch the puppy recklessly run from one wall to the other, bouncing off each one like a ping-pong ball, frantically coming back to her to playfully bite her hand or her leg, only to go off again like a stone let off a slingshot, and to repeat the whole process of welcoming her home again and again. And then, once the ritual of greeting Alice was over, they would sit together on Jupiter's bed, where she would pour her heart out, recounting in details all that she remembered from her day at school. Jupiter, of course, was always eager and ready to patiently listen to her stories. With his eyes turned up towards her face, and when he grew bigger, tilting his head hilariously from side to side, Alice would often seriously say to him, "You are the only one who can really understand what I'm saying," adding, "I love you for that." When he grew older, this statement often made him spontaneously place his heavy paw on Alice's leg, looking her straight in the face, as if saying, "I love you too, with all my heart." He was such a devoted friend. Jupiter turned out to be everything and more than Alice had ever imagined a dog could be. It was so funny to watch him follow her everywhere she went, even in his sleep. She remembers an evening when she was doing her homework and the dog, still a puppy, by then a few months old, fell asleep at her feet. Suddenly, she felt thirsty and wanted to get herself a drink from the kitchen. As she intended to be back in a jiffy, she didn't want to wake Jupiter. She got up very slowly and quietly from her chair, then step by step started moving away from him. She watched him with a grin on her face as he also very slowly got up from the floor, and with his eyes closed, his head down and one of his ears adorably drooping to one side, followed her disappearing scent, only to flop himself down, with his eyes still closed, next to her feet in the kitchen. If ever there was any need for Jupiter to prove his devotion to Alice, this reaction irrefutably was it. This seemingly trivial incident not only took root in Alice's memory, but also found its way, forever and ever, into the warmest nook of her heart. As the time went past, Jupiter was growing to be a big, beautiful, powerful German shepherd, and Alice was ever so proud to show him off to her friends. When she took him out for walks, every day after school. One day, on entering home, she was immediately and unpleasantly struck by silence. Granny was standing over the dog, looking worried. Jupiter, always so boisterous, could not even lift his head to greet Alice. He was lying on his bed, all limp and motionless. She knelt down next to him and immediately noticed his very dry nose, which was hot to the touch. "Granny, what are we going to do? He's burning with fever." But Granny was very old by then, and she really couldn't help much. Fortunately, there was a vet's surgery not far from the house. Unfortunately, oh dear, there's an earthquake. And a really strong one. Oh shit. Oops, sorry. Whoa. Stop. Still going on. My heart is pounding. Oh dear. It's been a lot of those lately. Earthquakes. Still going on. Whoa. It's over. Whoa. Whoa. It's like a reaction of the earth to the dog's illness. Fortunately, there was a vet surgery not far from the house. Unfortunately, as the dog was almost unconscious, he would have to be carried. Alice, without much ado, lifted Jupiter, who must have weighed almost as much as she did, finding this almost superhuman strength in her love for the dog, and carried him to Estella, who lived next door, to ask her for help. Estella was always ready to help in every situation. On opening the door, she exclaimed, "Oh my goodness, what is wrong with Jupiter? He's very sick, and I need your help to carry him to the vet. There is nobody in my house to help me," said Alice with tears in her eyes. Alice knew she was not able to carry Jupiter all the way to the vet by herself. Estella didn't have to be asked twice. This mammoth task they performed together, to the amazement of the doctor, who attended to the sick animal. Jupiter, it turned out, had distemper. He was gravely ill. Alice was allowed to take a few days off school to take care of him. He was very poorly for a while, but eventually, with all the loving care he got, started getting better, to finally recover completely. My goodness, my heart is still going. The only sign of ever having the disease was some discoloration of his teeth and a lazy ear that had a tendency to flop for a long time to come, which only made him even more adorable to Alice. His illness never stopped him from becoming a very intelligent, well-behaved dog. Dad not only spent hours of training Jupiter by himself, but they also both attended a dog school, which resulted in Jupiter knowing how to walk obediently and coming to the heel when called. Being intelligent, he learned many useful and many unuseful but fun commands. He lived with Alice's family for many happy years, until he became old. And as all dogs do, to eventually go to dog's heaven, to be rewarded with what he loved doing best, which was running free on the summer meadow full of tall grasses and colorful, fragrant flowers. Jupiter will always be remembered with love as a beautiful, clever dog with a lot of character, often making the family laugh, being a little naughty sometimes, like those memorable times when he was told to stay out of the room when the family sat together to eat a meal. But somehow, in an invisible and organic way, everyone would soon enough find him lying next to Alice's feet, apparently fast asleep, which everyone knew he was just pretending to be. He was fast, he was stealthy, and he loved Alice. What a dog! So well deserving of being loved, never to be forgotten. And now he will continue living in Alice's grandchildren's imagination too. And that's the end of my story, interrupted somewhat by by an earthquake. Sending all my love to my little granddaughter Aerith, and thank you very much for listening. And see you again. Bye bye.